Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, feeling strangely alert, as though your body wanted to be awake before drifting back to sleep? You might have dismissed it as insomnia or a restless mind. But what if I told you that, for hundreds of years, this was not a problem at all? It was normal. In fact, in the Middle Ages, people expected to wake up in the middle of the night. They even had a name for it: their first sleep and their second sleep. Why did medieval people sleep in two shifts? What did they do in the quiet hours between? And why did this rhythm of life, once so natural, fade away until it was almost entirely forgotten? Tonight, let us journey back to the world of flickering candles, darkened villages, monastic bells, and whispered prayers. A world where night was not one long stretch of silence, but a tapestry of wakefulness and slumber. As you listen, allow your mind to drift, slowly and gently, into the rhythms of the past, until perhaps you feel the same peace that once lulled our ancestors to sleep in two gentle waves. Before electricity, before the soft hum of light bulbs and glowing screens, there was darkness. Thick, heavy darkness that blanketed medieval towns and countryside alike. When the sun set, life shifted into an entirely different mode. In the villages, people gathered near hearths, their homes illuminated only by firelight or a candle stub. In castles, great halls glimmered faintly with torches and tallow lamps, but beyond those walls, the world was utterly black. The stars stretched vast above fields and forests, and the moon, when it was full, seemed the only lantern large enough to light the earth. For us today, night is an interruption, a pause in the day's busyness. But for medieval people, night was its own kingdom, with its own rules and rhythms. And within that kingdom, sleep reigned supreme. Yet it was not the unbroken sleep we expect. It came in two distinct acts. This rhythm was not unusual to them. It was expected. Families ended their work early, ate their evening meal, and prepared for bed not long after dusk. The long nights of winter, sometimes stretching 14 hours or more, made a single block of continuous sleep unlikely. Instead, people fell into the pattern of first sleep and second sleep, with a wakeful interlude between. Picture a peasant family after supper. The stew pot has been set aside, bread crusts finished, children quiet. The room is small, perhaps 1 or 2 chambers only. A straw mattress or wooden bed might hold several family members, huddled together for warmth beneath rough blankets. Privacy, as we think of it, did not exist. Slowly, the day's exhaustion takes them. The first sleep begins. This slumber is deep, heavy, restorative. Modern researchers suggest it may have been rich in slow-wave sleep, the phase where the body repairs tissues, strengthens memory, and releases growth hormones. For the farmer who labored from dawn to dusk, for the washerwoman who bent over cold rivers, for the blacksmith whose hammer rang all day, this first sleep was an anchor, pulling them down into the depths of rest. Even the wealthy, who lived more comfortably, followed the same pattern. Nobles and merchants also sank into first sleep after their evening gatherings. Their beds were grander, draped in furs and silks, but the rhythm of the body was the same. The first sleep was universal. Then, like clockwork, something curious happened. Around midnight, people stirred. One woke to add wood to the fire. Another sat up, rubbing eyes stretching. Slowly, one after another, they roused from first sleep. But they did not panic, nor lie awake frustrated as we might today. This waking was natural, expected. It was known as the watch, or simply the space between sleeps. The wealthy might use this time to read, to write letters, or to pray. Monks rose in cloisters, leaving their narrow palates to chant matins, the midnight prayers. Their voices echoed through stone chapels, filling the silence with sacred sound. Husbands and wives whispered together in the dark, sometimes seeking intimacy, for physicians of the era recommended the hours after first sleep as the best time for conception. Farmers checked on livestock. Mothers soothed restless children. Some ventured outdoors to draw water or relieve themselves, guided only by starlight. Theologians praised this midnight wakefulness as holy. Physicians prescribed medicines to be taken after the first sleep. Court records mention crimes and conversations happening in those hours, as though it were simply part of life. This interlude lasted an hour or two. It was a pocket of calm within the night, a chance for thought, devotion, or small tasks. Then, when drowsiness returned, people slipped into their second sleep. If the first sleep was deep and heavy, the second was softer, lighter, filled with dreams. People often reported remembering their second sleep dreams more vividly, perhaps because they woke closer to the dawn. In these hours, visions came. Some believed dreams after the midnight watch carried special meaning, messages from the divine, or glimpses of the future. In households across Europe, people woke at sunrise not groggy, but refreshed, the balance of two sleeps leaving them restored. You may be wondering, how do we know this? How can we be sure this was normal life, and not just a peculiar habit of a few? The answer lies in the words left behind. Across centuries, references to first sleep and second sleep appear again and again. In France, a doctor advised a patient to take a tonic after the first sleep. In England, court records describe neighbors meeting after their first sleep. The essayist Sir Thomas Browne wrote in the 17th century of the first sleep as common knowledge. Even Chaucer's tales and medical handbooks of the Middle Ages referred to the rhythm casually, without explanation, because everyone understood it. Historians, when they uncovered these scattered mentions, pieced together the pattern. And what emerged was not an oddity, but a way of life, so ordinary that no one thought to question it. But why did this rhythm exist? Part of the reason lies in nature. In winter, nights were long, far longer than a single sleep cycle could comfortably last. Dividing rest into two parts allowed people to balance wakefulness and slumber more naturally. Another reason may lie in our biology. In the 1990s, sleep researcher Thomas conducted an experiment. He placed volunteers in darkness for 14 hours a night. After a few weeks, their sleep patterns shifted. They fell asleep early, woke for a couple of hours around midnight, then drifted into a second sleep. Their bodies naturally adopted the very pattern medieval people had lived by. This suggests that biphasic sleep may be our default, our natural alignment with the Earth's cycles. Artificial light and the shortening of night by electricity simply overrode it. Religion shaped medieval life, and sleep was no exception. Monks followed strict schedules of prayer, rising at intervals through the night. The canonical hours of matins and lauds were kept before dawn, echoing the natural wakefulness of biphasic sleep. For lay people, too, the midnight watch was a time of devotion. Manuals of prayer recommended reciting psalms between sleeps. Some believed the veil between the earthly and the divine was thinnest in these hours, making prayer more potent. The midnight rising, far from being idle, was a spiritual duty for many. Dreams held enormous weight in medieval culture. They were omens, messages, or divine visions. The period between sleeps, when people were half awake, half dreaming, was fertile ground for imagination. Some dreamed vividly in their second sleep, and upon waking, they recounted visions to family or priests. Others claimed to encounter spirits or demons in those hours of wakefulness. Folklore teems with stories of midnight visitations, succubi, incubi, and angels. Night was never empty. It was full of presences, seen and unseen. The pause between sleeps was a threshold world. The practice of two sleeps spanned all classes, but its experience differed. For peasants, sleep was communal. Families, sometimes with servants or even animals nearby, shared the same space. The fire provided warmth. Privacy was rare. The waking hour might be used for simple chores, prayer, or quiet talk. For nobles and merchants, the midnight wakefulness could be more elaborate. They might rise, light candles, read, compose letters, or host late-night conversations. In urban homes, people could even visit neighbors between sleeps. Yet at root, the pattern was the same. First sleep, watch, second sleep. If two sleeps were once natural, why do we no longer follow them? The answer is light. As cities grew, street lamps appeared. Candles became cheaper. People stayed awake later into the night. By the 17th and 18th centuries, bedtimes were shifting later, compressing two sleeps into one. The arrival of gaslight and later electricity transformed the night entirely. People worked longer hours, entertained themselves later, and slept in a single block. By the 19th century, the language of first sleep and second sleep was fading. By the 20th, it was forgotten, remembered only by scholars. And yet, echoes remain. Have you ever woken in the middle of the night, feeling alert, then fallen back asleep after an hour? That, some argue, is a ghost of biphasic sleep, a trace of what our ancestors lived daily. Insomnia, too, may sometimes be a modern mislabel for a natural pattern. Some sleep researchers suggest that our bodies are still attuned to biphasic rhythms, but our schedules and artificial light push us into a single block. In Mediterranean cultures, where siestas persist, biphasic rest lives on in another form. The body, it seems, has not entirely forgotten. Let us imagine that, one night in a medieval village, the sun has set. Shadows lengthen. The family gathers by the fire, eating their evening porridge. Slowly, they drift to their bed of straw. Children sigh, mothers hush them. The father's breathing grows steady. First sleep takes them. Hours later, one stirs. A candle is lit. The mother whispers a prayer, rocking the baby. The father steps outside, looking at the stars. The fire is stirred, logs placed gently. For a short while, the family is awake, sharing the silence of night. Then, quietly, they return to bed. Dreams come, vivid and strange. At dawn, the cock crows. They rise, not exhausted, but restored, ready for another day. This was life for centuries, the world of two sleeps. So why did medieval people sleep in two shifts? Because night was longer, and their bodies responded naturally. Because darkness invited rhythms different from our electric-lit lives. Because in that wakeful watch, they found prayer, love, reflection, and community. It was not strange to them. It was natural. As you lie now in your own bed, perhaps you feel a kinship with those ancestors. Perhaps you, too, have woken at midnight and wondered why. The answer is simple. It is written in our history and perhaps in our very bodies. So close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Let the first sleep take you, and if you wake in the night, know that you are part of an ancient rhythm, one that has cradled humanity for centuries.